And you are live.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting in the town of Northborough for December 5th, 2022. I will read some introductory remarks such as, this open meeting of the Northborough Board of Selectmen is being conducted remotely consistent with the July 16th, 2022 Act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Northborough Board of Selectmen are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Northborough Board of Selectmen to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link posted on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. I'm going to go around the room and make sure everyone can hear us and be heard. Let's see. Scott Rogers, I see you. Do you hear me?
Present.
Excellent. Kristen Wickstead.
Here.
Julianne.
Here.
And Jason Pro.
Here.
I'm Mitch Cohen, and we also have with us Fire Chief Dave Parenti.
Present.
Assistant I almost called you town manager, town administrator, Becca Meekins.
Present.
And town administrator, John Kader.
Present.
And police chief, Bill Iver.
Present.
And DPW director, Scott Charpentier.
Present.
And we also have Northborough Cable with us tonight for recording purposes. And let's get started. The first item on our agenda, as always, is public comment. If there is anyone in the meeting that would like to speak on anything, primarily anything that's not on the agenda, so you'll have an opportunity with those items later, raise your virtual hand, please. Hey, we've got somebody. All right, Alice Latowski, now I'll try. You still have your hand up. I'm bringing you in. Sorry, you blinked off and on for a second, Alice. You can unmute yourself if you'd like.
Say hello. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, identify yourself if you could, please.
My name is Alice Latowski. I live at 490 Main Street in Northborough. That's the Pheasant Hill condominiums, and I'm in Unit 112.
Great. What can I do for you?
I'm calling in reference to a notification to abutters under the Mass Wetlands Protection Act. It seems that Mr. Greg Martineau, the superintendent of schools, is seeking to disturb over an acre of wetlands to add additional athletic fields to Algonquin Regional High School. Most of the 48 unit owners received a letter from the post or from him the other day alerting us to this. My question is, where are the funds coming from to do this if this act is passed? And second of all, I'd like to know some more about the athletic campus improvements. Has that been voted on? Is that being funded by taxpayers? Or
Yep, you have very, very valid questions. However, this board probably can't answer them right now. My suspicion is that it would be conservation, maybe. I'm not sure, John or Scott, if you can suggest which board would be handling this. Not the budget question, but the notification question.
Yeah, so the discussion of the project will be at the Conservation Commission meeting. As far as information about the project itself, by all means, should contact the superintendent's office, and they'd be more than happy to provide information about the project. It has not been approved or funded at this point. They are applying for permits to get that process started. The project will likely be going forward through the planning process and may be on the town meeting warrant for April of 2023, but nothing has been approved as far as appropriations and funding. The project itself, I think, has been endorsed by the Regional High School Committee to bring forward, but it has to still go through the whole normal planning process.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Scott, did you have your hand up to add something on that?
Yes, through the chair, I just want to let Alice know that the full set of drawings are available in the planning office if you wanted to go down there and take a look at them.
Yes, thank you.
Alice, thank you very much for calling in.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, are there any other members of the public that wish to speak to something not on the agenda? Once, going twice. Gone. First up on our business, we have a couple of sets of meeting minutes. Would someone like to make a motion on the meeting minutes for November 7th, 2022? Or make any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to approve the November 7, 2022 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, certainly Jason made the motion. I think Scott, I heard it your second first. And I know we held these for some potential changes. Were any changes submitted and made as appropriate? If not, if everyone's okay with them, we're good. Any other discussion? All those in favor, let's see. Jason,
Aye.
Julianne,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
I also vote aye, vote unanimous in favor. Meeting minutes are approved. Do I have a motion or any other item relating to the meeting minutes of November 21st, 2022?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to approve the November 21st, 2022 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Scott, seconded by Kristen. Any other discussion? All those in favor, Julianne,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Vote is unanimous in favor. Meeting minutes are approved. Next up, we have dog park discussion and potential vote. Let's see. I know I see Lori Connors in there. Lori, I'm going to bring you in as a full panelist. Hi, Lori, if you could unmute yourself and if you'd like, turn on your camera. Good evening.
Hi, how is everybody this evening?
We're good.
Good. Thank you very much for joining us. Give us
Thank
an
you for
update
having
on-
us. I am here with Scott Charpentier to talk about the Northborough Dog Park, which has been an initiative that's been underway for about 18 years now. So it's long past due that Northborough get a dog park. So as many of you know, back in April of 2022, town meeting allotted about $35,500 to the task of completing a feasibility study as well as a preliminary plan for the Northborough Dog Park. So part of that initiative was to study up to 5 municipal properties for their feasibility for a dog park. So in July, we hired Weston and Sampson engineers as our consultant to help us with this effort. And they started work back in September of 2022. So I am going to share my screen. I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I would like to go through with you. So if you just bear with me a minute while I share that. Okay, can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
All right, great. So well, let me just go through what we're going to be discussing tonight. So first, we're going to go through the project team. We're going to go through the schedule that we've been working on since kickoff back in September. We're going to go through the project goals, which includes a brief description of some of the amenities that we're interested in for the dog park. We're going to talk about the various location options, the goals for the specific location that would make ideal for the dog park, analyze the 4 sites that we selected for the Weston and Sampson analysis, and then have a brief discussion of where things stand today. So our team consists of Scott and Allie, who have been at this for a lot longer than I have. Like I said, this initiative was started about 18 years ago. So I believe Allie has been involved since very, very early in the process, and Scott came on board a few years later and has been involved more recently. And then, of course, I'm the newbie. The team members from Weston and Sampson, we have Mike Easler, he is our project manager, and Jeanette Cantu, who is assisting him. And I'm gonna butcher Tanguy's name, Tanguy Zhang. So right now we're at about the, well, obviously the November timeframe. So we had our project kickoff in September. On October 11th, we had a community meeting via Zoom. And some of you actually attended that meeting. We had about 29 people who tuned in live. And then I know I looked online, I think there were about 177 views online. So there has been quite a bit of interest. So the presentation has been available on the planning department website since I believe the day after the community meeting, as well as the PowerPoint slides. So that community meeting was very similar presentation to what you're seeing tonight. So we gave some introduction about the dog park. We presented the 4 sites. And we asked folks to provide feedback on the sites that they thought would be best. And Scott's going to go into that in a little bit more detail later. So one of the reasons why we were interested in having that community meeting in October is because we were interested in submitting a CPA application to the Community Preservation Committee to pay for construction. So we do anticipate that the preliminary design will be completed in the spring. And so then we're looking with an eye towards construction. In order to comply with the CPC submission requirements, we did have to do a concept plan. So we did work with Weston and Sampson on that. We wanted to ensure that the concept could work for a couple of different sites. So that is a concept that you're gonna most likely see later this evening. So of course we are here to discuss the sites with you this evening because we are interested in getting your blessing on the site that has received the most interest to date. And of course, I'm going to let Scott reveal that to you. And so the next step after this meeting, assuming we do get your blessing, is to continue with the design and then have community meeting number 2. So community meeting number 2 will be an opportunity for Weston and Sampson to go over in more detail the specific plans for the chosen site and ask for feedback on the design and the amenities. So that will be another Zoom meeting. It will be advertised. We do have some folks who have asked to be on our mailing list. So those folks will be invited once again to comment, and we will be advertising, of course, on our website, as well as in the newspaper for that second meeting, which will, like I said, happen in January. So then we will advance to 75% design development. We do not have all of the funds necessary to do 100% design plans. So in January, I will also be submitting a design application to the Stanton Foundation, which will get us all the way to what we need for finished design and construction ready bid documents. So of course, CPC has already started their public hearings. So Scott provided a little overview at the meeting on Thursday night last week, and then we'll provide more information at next month's meeting, assuming that this presentation is successful and that you folks give us your blessing for a site. So of course, what we're trying to accomplish here is to develop Northborough's first off-leash facility for both people and dogs. So this will be a fenced-in area. It will be a safe area where people can go and socialize with other dog lovers, and while their dogs exercise themselves. So it's a fun place to go. And a lot of times people think that it's just for the dogs, but it's not. You know, a lot of people make wonderful friends by going to a dog park, and they go at the same time on a regular basis, and it really becomes a bonding activity for both humans and their pets. So of course, we're interested in adding another recreation amenity to the town of Northborough, a recreation amenity that does not currently exist. And of course, in the master plan and in the open space and recreation plan, the creation of a dog park has been identified as an important recommendation and task that people would like to see going forward. This was revealed in the master plan survey. And as I mentioned, this has been an effort that dates back 18 years. So there are a lot of committed folks in town who really want to see this happen. So this slide shows some of the amenities, some of the things that we're thinking about as we're working with Weston and Sampson on what this dog park should look like. So some important considerations are the surfacing. So we've been talking about whether we wanted grass surface or synthetic turf or mulch. We've been talking about trails, whether they should be concrete or stone dust. We've also been talking about seating amenities. There's interest in having shade shelters. That's very, very important in a dog park, particularly during the hot summer months. But people enjoy going to a dog park even when the weather isn't always the best. So that becomes important when it's sprinkling out. And then, of course, agility equipment and water features. The Stanton Foundation is pretty much the premier funder of dog parks in Massachusetts at this time, and they do require the dog park to have public water. So that, of course, is important for drinking water, but it could also be important for play. So that's something that we've been thinking about. So as I mentioned, the town identified 4 potential locations for Weston and Sampson to analyze. It was important that there are some similarities between all of these locations. Number one, we wanted to ensure that they were accessible. We wanted to ensure that they were of a certain minimum size, and that they also had the ability to be able to accommodate parking and public water as well as shade. So now I'm going to turn it over to Scott, who's going to go into the 4 sites that were studied.
Thanks, Lori. Yeah, so Lori summarized very well what we looked at, what we were looking for in a site. These aren't the only 4 locations we looked at. We started out with a GIS map of every parcel that Northborough owns. Chipped away at a bunch of them due to topographic issues, proximity to wetlands, overlay districts. So, for example, there's a nice parcel of land as you go into Watson Park on the left-hand side. It looks like a perfect spot for a dog park, but it's in our Zone 1 wellhead protection area. So things like that, we were eliminated certain parcels from consideration. You add into that the need for frontage along a roadway, municipal water supply, and a minimum contiguous lot area or a buildable area. And these are the 4 locations we ended up with. There's one is Carriage Hill Road. It's a residential road up past Washburn in the Mohawk area. There's another parcel done on Buena Vista, which is off of South Street. It's at the corner of Buena Vista and Greenland. If you're driving down South Street, you'd notice that parcel. It's a large open meadow on the left, on the right-hand side as you're going down toward Brigham. There's a lot of flat land and there's some pocket wetlands throughout that large parcel, but we did find a portion of it that appears to be upland. There's also a large parcel of land on Boundary Street that the town owns. The town purchased that land in the early 60s with the expectation of building a sanitary sewer treatment plant there. The Department of Public Health that back then directed the town of Northborough to discharge to Marlborough sewer treatment plant, which is across the street. It did not make good environmental sense to have 2 sewer treatment plants literally next to each other, discharging into the same river. And then the 4th parcel is at the senior center as you enter the driveway on the right-hand side. When the senior center parcel was went under town ownership, it was broken up into 3 parcels. One is a large conservation area that's located kind of in the back of the parking, the existing parking area of the senior center. Then there's the main area of the senior center, and also the front right-hand piece that is dedicated to recreation. So I'll go through it quickly on each one of these 4 sites through the next 4 slides. This first one is, that's me. The computer is telling me it's going to reboot in 4 minutes and 26 seconds.
Talk fast.
Yeah, I know, right? Hope it doesn't do it. So Carriage Hill, you can see it's a contiguous upland. There's some challenges there in that the topography is such that the level areas would be at the same elevation as some of the residents. Generally, that it can be buffered pretty easily, except in this case, we have a valley in between where the stream is to the back. That can be problematic when it comes from a sound perspective. This is completely surrounded by residential uses, and it is a little over half a mile off of a main road. So I would consider Whitney Street as somewhat of a more of a main road. You've got to go up Lancaster, Washburn, and Mohegan to get to the dog park. So there's quite a bit of neighborhood driving in order to access it. This is Boundary Street. So the sewer treatment plant is directly across the street from this location. There's an existing dirt parking lot on the left-hand side as you're heading on Boundary Street from Hudson Street. That's actually on DCR land. This location is about 400 feet further down the road. It's a very large parcel of land. We've identified a little over 8 acres, about 8.5 acres that's available. It's a wooded area. There's drinking water available in the roadway. There's a lot of topographic features here which allow flexibility when it comes to sound barriers. The one abutting property you'll see that is in the horseshoe between the arrowheads is a Northborough Housing Authority property. The dog park could be placed at a minimum of 100 feet from that structure, and there's a lot of available existing vegetation as well as additive vegetation if we needed it, if this was a selected parcel. Next slide. This is Buena Vista. The large meadow area is pretty wet, but we're able to find a solid acre of upland that could be considered a viable location for a dog park. One of the challenges at this location is what appears to be a series of walking trails in that area are actually sewer easements. They end up discharging into people's backyards. So the prior location, Boundary Street, I don't know if anybody here hikes, but if you do, you'll know that gravel DCR lot I was referring to accesses a number of wooded trails. Those wooded trails are there for hiking. They're on leash available. This, on the other hand, would not be appropriate for on leash hiking in those trails because they're not trails. They're sewer easements that poke in and out of people's backyards. Couple that with the fact that it's a somewhat of a limited size, this was a challenging site to consider. Next. The last one here is the senior center. You'll see the 2-acre portion of land in green. Again, that's directly as you pull in on the right-hand side. It's a wooded lot. It's relatively flat. The abutting property uses are industrial or the railroad, and obviously the senior center. From an elevation perspective, it's beneficial. It benefits the senior center because the senior center is a bit higher in elevation than the level dog park area. So those are the 4 sites. When you compare the analyses of the 4 sites, the Boundary Street parcel has the least number of residential or uses around it that may be troubling. Buena Vista is the wettest, so and the smallest, so that would pose quite a bit of a challenge. The Carriage Hill is embedded in a neighborhood and surrounded by residential.
I think his computer
Yes,
just rebooted.
That's
I
okay, I
don't
can
know.
finish.
Okay, great. Thank you, Laura. I was going to ask if you were okay continuing, or we could move on to something else and come back.
No, we can certainly continue. So the analysis that Weston and Sampson prepared identified the 2 most viable sites as the Boundary Street site and the Barefoot Road site. So we had, of course, our public meeting in October, like I mentioned. And at that meeting, we asked people to articulate their top choices or top choice for the location of the dog park. So nobody supported placing the dog park at either the Carriage Hill or the Buena Vista Road sites. The 2 sites that were the most popular were the Boundary Street site and the Barefoot Road site. However, the Barefoot Road site essentially received 3 votes. I think one of them, maybe 2 were actually at the community meeting, and then 1 I received via email after the fact. But the senior center site also received a number of negative comments. So we received feedback before and after the meeting via phone calls and via email from folks who were connected with the senior center who were really opposed to the dog park going there for a whole variety of reasons. Mostly that they thought that it would be a nuisance. So the Boundary Street site at the meeting received 7 affirmative votes. Like I said, there were 29 people who attended, but not everybody voted. So some people just made comments about the types of amenities, but didn't say anything about the location. Others were just quiet. They didn't say anything at all. So of the people who mentioned a location, the number 1 location was the Boundary Street site. So Where we are actually interested in putting the dog park is as close to the DCR land as possible. There is, of course, one abutter is permanently protected open space. The abutter across the street is the regional sewer treatment plant. And then there is a duplex that is located next door. However, we are committed to leaving a wooded buffer between the dog park and the duplex to mitigate noise. Unfortunately, oh, Scott, he's there.
I
Perfect
don't, can
timing,
you see me?
Scott.
Am I on video?
I'm gonna unshare mine, and maybe you can share yours so that you can show.
Oh,
the
no,
concept.
no, I'm on my phone. I'm on my phone. Let's not,
Oh,
my computer is still down. I'm sorry.
okay, okay, no
I'm
problem.
glad you were able to rejoin us, Scott. Lori, could you
Unfortunately,
perhaps?
we had it intended to show you the concept plan, but I was unable to access the server to my laptop today for some unknown reason. And so that meant that Scott had the concept plan all queued up on his computer, but now, of course, we lost access to his computer. So unfortunately, I can't share that concept with you right now, but I would be happy to send it along to you tomorrow. But what we had thought about was an acre, slightly over an acre fenced in area, consist of a small dog park.
Lori, I'm sorry to interrupt. Would you mind switching over to the boundary page rather than the page showing all four, so we
Sure.
can see that? And perhaps, I know we don't have the full drawings, the concept plan, but if you could maybe, wiggle your mouse around the area that where you were thinking about would be
So you see
helpful.
this?
And yep, yeah, I see
Okay.
that. And I
So this
just a
is-
second. Yes. Scott Rogers, you have your hand up. Do you want to ask a question now, or do you want to wait until the end of the call?
I have the concept planned up on my screen if you'd like me to share it from my screen.
I think that would,
Awesome. Let me stop
that'd be
sharing and you can share yours. Thank you, Scott.
one Scott was going to do it, and then the other Scott did.
Scott to the rescue.
Is that visible to you all?
Yes.
Lori, if you want, I'll give a quick bio about the layout, and then maybe you can get into the specifics and the details. So the goal and objective, as Lori indicated earlier, was to prepare a conceptual design, a schematic design that would fit in any of the four parcels we considered. It would have to change in geometry, but generally the sizes would be the same. So what you see before you is a bit of a rectangle that fits well on the Boundary Street site. The senior center site would be more of a square, as with the Buena Vista, and the Carriage Hill site would be more segmented with parking on one of the upland lobes and dog park on the other lobe. So that was our goal and objective. We started out with what could be considered a Cadillac and pared it down in size to be something that we deem to be appropriate and affordable for the community. So that's what you have before you now. Lori, if you want to go into the details, I'll see if I can get my real computer running.
Sure. So what we were thinking is that 10 parking spaces would be a good number to start with. So this would be an asphalt parking lot. We did think that it might be helpful to have an overflow parking area if there were special events held at the dog park. Like, for example, a fundraiser or meet and greet type event. Those are kind of common with dog parks. So we have a small area. So let me step back. There is a dual entry area. So it's like a double gate to ensure that the dogs won't escape. So that's right at the entrance. And then that opens up into both the small dog area and the large dog area. So the small dog area is literally for dogs that are of a smaller size. It can also be used as a timeout area. Usually the large dog area is more frequently used than the small dog area. So that is another benefit. If there are no small dogs currently using the small dog area, it can be used for timeout. And so we do have an area where we were thinking it would be good to have turf. Of course, Scott loves that because that's a low maintenance item for the DPW. It doesn't have to be mowed and it'll last a lot longer than, say, a mulch surfacing. And then the remainder of the site is envisioned to be mulch. We are interested in retaining some existing trees to provide shade. And there is a shade structure that straddles the small dog area and the large dog area. And that, of course, would benefit the users, the human users of the dog park. And then we're envisioning having additional benches kind of scattered throughout. And in the future, as money allows, we thought that it would be good to have an ADA accessible path going through the mulched areas. So, of course, right now we're very, very beginning stages of design. So we're not quite sure what types of amenities people are interested in and what we could actually afford. So this is pretty much the starting point. So we'd be interested in hearing your feedback. And in particular, we'd be interested in hearing your thoughts about the Boundary Street site.
One more, just one more thing to add, Lori. There were a couple benefits that the Boundary Street configuration provided that some of the other ones did not. One was a dedicated maintenance access gate, the double swing gate that was from the overflow parking. That would not be a pedestrian gate. That would be for maintenance vehicles only. Some of the other sites really didn't lend themselves well to having separated maintenance access. And also at the far end of the large dog mulch area, there was a gate, a sally port gate to get out to the trails. The other sites did not have that.
Great, Kristen.
So are there trails already there, or is that part of the plan is to make trails back in that area? Or
There are trails already there. There's already
that's like the old farm trail and stuff, right?
It runs over the DCR property. Yeah, there's quite a few trails that extend back there.
Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to picture where this is because I do walk there sometimes, and so it would connect to the trails that are already there. I think it's called it's the one with the cars on it, right? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? No.
I'm not sure.
I know the cars. Yeah.
That's the farm trail.
Yeah, the old farm trail. Right.
That's the farm
yeah.
trail.
So that goes to Boundary Street, and there's that parking lot there. So would it be like closer to Main Street from the parking lot, right? Is that where the dog park would be?
The dog park would be, the entrance to the dog park, vehicle entrance would be about 400 feet down Boundary Street away from Hudson Street.
Okay.
So you go down Hudson Street, you take a right, you're on Boundary
All
Street,
right.
you go
So
across the
from
Aspet River,
Hudson.
you pass
Okay.
the dirt parking lot, another 400 feet.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you just, Scott or Lori, just kind of explain the easement that's running through there and what the complication is with that?
That easement would require that we do not build any permanent structures over it. So the approach you take when you have an easement like that, from a construction perspective, is you put end posts on your fence at each limit of the easement and a line post in the middle. The difference between an end post and a line post is diameter and strength. When you have a corner in your fence in your yard, it's a heavy duty fence that you can pull against. All the little posts in the middle are just line posts. In that case, you have an end post at each limit and a small stretch of chain link fence between. So if easement access was needed, all you do is you unwind 15 feet of fence, they go through and you put the fence back up.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm encouraged by something once I was shown the location for where the park would be on the boundary site. One of my concerns would be that it would be very far off of Boundary Street and might not be visible from the road, which would present both the discoverability as well as safety concern, but it's really right up against the road. So I'm pleased with that. What is, and you may have described it a little bit to the, I guess, the northwest of where this would actually be installed. What is that property outside of the bounds of this parcel?
To the northwest, get my bearings. Boundary Street to the northwest. Well, that's the sewer treatment plant. That's the
Okay.
Wesley wastewater treatment plant. To the
Okay. Sorry.
northeast is another older plant. It's the I forget the name of the Merrill Farm water treatment plant. There's another old treatment plant that I don't believe is in use anymore. That's a little further toward Marlborough.
Okay. And if for some reason we ever did need or want to put in a sewer treatment plant at this location, my assumption is do you know if we would still, and I hope we never do, do you know if we would still be able to do it with this, or would we have to relocate the dog park at that point?
So
sorry,
if I could answer that. So it is our intent to apply for a Stanton Foundation grant, both for the design as well as the construction. And the maximum amount of money that you can obtain for a construction grant is $225,000. So it's a sizable amount. They do require a minimum 10% match, and then the design grant maximum is $22,500. But the town would be required, if the town chooses to take advantage of these funds, to keep this as a dog park for the next 99 years. So you actually have to sign a memorandum of understanding committing to the 99-year time frame.
From a logistics perspective on the parcel, if you recall the overlying parcel that showed the entire limits of the Boundary Street, the work that we're looking at is one of 3 accesses off of Boundary Street. So it would not limit access to the parcel for construction of a sewer treatment plant. The sewer division also owns the Heitzman property, which is a very large tract of land that extends from this Boundary Street parcel down to Route 20 Main Street. The existence of the dog park would not preclude construction of a sewer treatment plant at this location.
Good. Those are my questions, Julianne.
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions. First one is, what happens if the Stanton grant doesn't come through?
I'm fairly confident that the grant will come through. I have successfully gotten this particular grant in the past when I worked for another community. So I have a relationship already with the Stanton Foundation. And secondly, they fund up to 10 dog parks per year. So the key for us is to apply early in the year. So if we apply too late in one year, then we can certainly refile earlier in the year, the next year. So I'm fairly certain that we will be able to get this grant. we don't anticipate that it will pay everything. The grant application that we submitted to the Community Preservation Committee was for approximately $350,000, which is a little bit of a shortfall in the cost for final design. And then the balance is for construction. Construction costs have gone through the roof over the last couple of years, so you can't, your money just doesn't go as far as it used to. So the Stanton Foundation money is really important in order to get a a nice dog park for the town of Northborough. So I'm feeling good about the grant's prospects.
So if we take this money, are there rules that we have to abide by, such as it has to be open to anybody in Massachusetts? And do they have rules such as you can have as many dogs as one person can bring as many dogs as they want? What control would we have over it?
So as part of the application process to the Stanton Foundation, you have to provide them with rules. So the rules actually are set by the community, not by the Stanton Foundation. They do have certain recommended rules, and the rules are all aimed at keeping both people and dogs safe. So a typical rule is that you can't bring any food into the dog park, that children under a certain age have to be accompanied by an adult. One of the rules is that we could say that children have to be 16 years or older in order to attend the dog park unaccompanied. So really the rules are set by the town, approved by the Stanton Foundation, and then they do have certain maintenance requirements. So for example, they do require you to empty your trash barrels within the dog park twice a week during summer months and once a week during the winter months. Nothing that they require have I found to be unreasonable in any way. I have found their guidance to be very helpful. The dog park that I did in Millbury was, I believe, the first municipal dog park in Central Mass. And so it was a big learning curve for us. And they did provide us with helpful guidance. They did review our design plans and provide us with some feedback. But in no way did I find their oversight punishing in any way.
So if the town decides that they want this dog park to be only for Northborough residents, that's doable?
You can, actually. That's what we did in Millbury when we first opened our dog park. We limited it to Millbury and Sutton residents. However, I can tell you that it's virtually impossible to police. So after a couple of years, we realized that that was a losing battle and we opened it up to everybody. In our community, we actually charge a fee because the DPW does not maintain the dog park. It's maintained by volunteers. So, we had an application process and people would provide us with the information about their dogs, a copy of their dog's license, and contact information, which was helpful to have in certain circumstances, particularly if there was a rare issue where, people found a particular dog aggressive. We did actually ban a couple of dogs from the dog park. Or when we were doing fundraisers. So it is something you can do, but like I said, unless you're gonna put a key card system, it's not going to be very easy to keep other people out.
So for tonight's purposes, we're just really talking about this location. So I should get back to location. What of the abutting towns to us, are there any other towns that have dog parks?
Well, I haven't paid too much attention to the direct abutters, but I can tell you several of the communities that have them. Of course, Millbury, Worcester has, I believe, 4. Leicester has a new dog park that just opened this year. Auburn, Oxford, Uxbridge. And then, of course, there are a whole bunch in the Boston area. So if you want the names of, I know Hudson contacted me because they're interested in developing a dog park. Southborough is also in the early stages of planning a dog park. So I can tell you that they currently do not have them, but they are interested in getting them.
Okay, and just one more question. The residents in the duplex and any other houses, have they been notified?
So we did receive some emailed comments from the abutter who lives about 500 linear feet from the dog park. And that individual has expressed concerns, and I believe all of you received a copy of that email. So she is not particularly keen on having this location. She would prefer it to be at the senior center. We haven't heard from any of the other direct abutters. We did hear from the housing authority. So of course the housing authority owns the duplex that is immediately next door. So I did speak with Rick Leaf. I spoke with Ray, can't think of her last name. And we did discuss the fact that we would do a wooded buffer in between, and absolutely, as the design progresses, share those drawings and, interest in receiving their feedback.
One of the, to add on to that, Julianne, one of the representatives on the Community Preservation Committee is Housing Authority delegate, Andy Dowd.
Okay. Thank you.
We do have a couple of, excuse me, hands up from the audience. Before I bring in anyone, do any members of the board or any staff people have anything they would like to ask or say? And we'll have the opportunity to come back again afterwards. Okay. I see 2 hands raised. Cindy Burns, I'm going to recognize you now. Cindy, if you could unmute yourself and identify yourself, please.
Hi, yes, I just unmuted. Cindy Burns, and I am at 186 Boundary Street in Northborough. And looking at the 2 properties, the Senior Center and Boundary Street, the total cost that you're showing in your application was about $600,000 for the total project. Have you done a cost analysis between the 2 properties? Are you looking at the same $600,000 for each location?
We are. There was a conceptual design done at the Senior Center pre-COVID, so it's been about 2.5 years now. Prices have changed quite a bit, but as I indicated earlier, the cost is based on the size and amenities, not necessarily the specific site. Site specific costs would come in if you have a lot of topographic changes. The Senior Center site as well as the Boundary Street site are very similar topography. One substantial difference is the Senior Center parcel would need to accommodate the geothermal well discharge, which is groundwater discharge. That would have to be either piped or routed around the dog park. The other significant difference is the need for a vegetated buffer between the dog park at Boundary Street and the residential users to the east. So those are the two primary differences between the two sites. Other than that, the amenities are pretty much the same. The parking lot's the same size. There's not a lot of earthwork to be done on either site.
Okay, thanks. And one more question is, obviously I'm in a butter to the project. One of my main concerns is security. And if I'm just wondering who would be enforcing any rules that are set, and what kind of security measures would you have at night? Would you have, where you have an open parking lot that might invite, teens from the neighborhood, or who knows what could go on? So I'm just wondering what your plan is for that.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Lori.
We're not envisioning any lighting for the dog park, so this would be strictly a dusk to dawn facility. And there would be required to have a committee that would oversee the dog park and deal with any sort of complaints or issues that crop up. So they would be the party who would enforce the rules.
And the design, Cindy, as far as visibility from the road, would be to have the parking area fully visible from the road. If there was less than desirable activities going on there, my guess is that the dirt parking lot that has a bit of a vegetative buffer between the road and the parking lot may be a little more, I guess, desirable for undesirable actions. This will be an open lot that you can see pretty clearly.
Okay, thank you.
Lori, could you, because you have a lot of experience with the Millbury Park, summarize any activities that might be unfavorable to neighbors that you may have experienced at that park, if anything?
Well, I have to say one of the pet peeves is how many people like to use the dog park dumpster for their household garbage. That was probably our biggest challenge is our dumpster, and actually having it available for our garbage because people kept taking advantage of that. The dog park in Millbury is similar in that it's pretty isolated. So we don't have very close residential abutters. And so we actually haven't received any complaints from any of the abutters about anything. No, actually, I correct that. I did once receive a complaint from a woman who lived next to the Butler farm, who was concerned because a stranger was walking on her private way, and she thought that they were from the dog park. That's the only complaint we ever received. Occasionally, we would receive complaints from people who weren't following the rules. The rules are posted on a sign in a couple of different locations in the dog park. And so we might receive complaints from people who weren't cleaning up after their dogs, or who weren't being mindful about what their dogs were doing. But that wasn't very common. And like I said, if there was an incident, like sometimes people complain about a dog playing particularly rough, then the person who is complaining, as well as the owner of the dog, were welcome to come to a committee and explain their side of the story. And then the committee would bring forth a decision as to what the owner could do to rectify the behavior, or it was kind of like a couple of strikes, you're out type deal. And then there were a couple of dogs who were banned. So we really didn't have any complaints, no odor complaints, no vandalism complaints, no illicit behavior complaints, nothing like that.
Great. Cindy, does that answer your questions?
It does. I'm thinking about the park, the way it extends back towards the trails. So I think time would tell. I see people riding bikes through the trails at night. People use these trails at night. So I think time will tell, how that's going to work there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, I see Rick and Leslie Robinson. I will bring you in. If you could identify yourself and unmute, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. This is Rick Robinson. I'm at 167 Howard Street. And I hate to admit it, but my wife and I were two of the people that were in it 18 years ago. So it's been a long haul. I just wanted to comment on some of the dog parks in the area. Over the fall, we were taking our dog to training in Franklin at Masterpiece Dog Training down there. Highly recommended, by the way, but not an ad. And as a reward for doing well at training, we take her to the Franklin Dog Park. Now, initially we felt very guilty because we're not Franklin, residents, and yet here we are using their facility. They have no restrictions, and talking with people, they don't care about it. They're more interested in, how's your dog? Let's play, get the dogs playing. Let's talk about training. Let's talk about your dog, talk about problems we've had. Maybe we can help reinforce the training and whatnot. People have been wonderful. Found the same thing in the Maynard Dog Park. That also is open to everyone. You go in, people are fantastic. I want to say what we've observed: no odor, no minimum barking. I mean, very minimum barking. Dogs that are playing, dogs that are running, that are chasing each other, that are jumping on rocks or over logs or whatever, they don't bark. They just chase and they pant a lot. And the other thing is no feces. People are very careful to pick up after themselves. And if a dog does something and someone doesn't see it do it, someone else will go over and pick it up. So dog people tend to want to monitor themselves, and given a place to go, they'll keep it clean. I mean, we have had no problems whatsoever, and it's been really good for our dog. And I'm glad to see Boundary Street. That's one of the locations we looked at 18 years ago and thought it was an excellent place. And I think that's going to work out wonderfully, because you have the option of the dog park or the trail walking, which sometimes it's good to switch it up. So, we're strongly advocating for Boundary Street and want to thank the town for the leadership and for the support in getting this done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Rick, I want to thank you for starting this 18 years ago. Hopefully we can wrap it up this time. All right. Next up, John Campbell. Hi, John.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Hear you fine. Welcome.
John Campbell. I live at 29 Spruce Hill Drive in Northborough, and I'm also the chair of the Community Preservation Committee. As Lori mentioned, the committee heard a presentation similar to what you've heard tonight on the dog park. And while we did not make any decisions yet regarding approving the application, I found that we were struck by the extreme thoroughness of the preparation of the application and the preparation that's gone into this effort and the design study that was completed. And toward that end, I've also been on the Open Space Committee and the Community Preservation Committee for over 15 years. So we've heard this proposal come up multiple times. And in this case, it seems like we have the best support of all and the best effort being put into the various sites. And the fact that our planning director, Lori Connors, put in a successful dog park in Millbury gives the town a very unique benefit. So we're lucky to have her as a steward of this project. We will continue our deliberations on the application at our next open hearing on January 5th. So just wanted to state that for anyone else listening. And again, we appreciate all the effort that's gone into the thoroughness of the study in their and their recommendation for the Boundary Street site.
Great. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Okay, that does it for hands that I see raised at this time. If anybody else in the audience does have anything to add on this topic, feel free to raise your hand at any time. Meanwhile, we'll return it to the board. If the board has any additional questions, Kristen.
Thank you. Laurie, when you were talking, you said if there was a problem, people would come before a committee. So what
Yes.
committee would that be?
So we formed a committee. It was called the Millbury Dog Park Committee. And it consisted of folks who, me as the chairman, and Millbury residents who essentially loved the dog park and wanted to be involved. So there were about 5 of us. So not only did we oversee the management of the dog park, but we also conducted all of the various fundraising efforts. As I mentioned, the dog park was not financially supported by the town. So we had to do quite a bit of fundraising. So, and then this committee was the committee that essentially adopted the rules and laid out so we had a website, and there were various information brochures that we put on our website about how to avoid problematic situations. You know, we held a workshop on understanding dog behavior. And we did a number of fun events. And so that's what the committee did.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Julianne.
Yeah, so thank you. It's just to make sure that we have all the information, was the property of the Westboro State Hospital, was that ever considered our portion of the old state hospital there?
It was considered during the prior round of dog park parcel considerations. That land needs to go to any state entity prior to being open or available for municipality as surplus. And the state entity, I don't know what department decided to obtain the one across the street where the building's being demoed.
That's the Department of Capital Asset Management, DCAM.
Yeah, so everything needs to go through DCAM first. That way the state has first grab at it.
Oh, so it was just too difficult to a piece of property to think about a dog park there?
The state reused a parcel for their own DCAM facility. So there's a little bit of land, but last time we checked with the state, they were not interested in surplusing it.
Okay.
They've used it. The bulk of that land has been reused for their purpose. They're putting a facility on that location.
Okay, and just so I understand the timeline, whatever site is approved tonight, then there's more design information to come, and then the final project is presented at town meeting?
So what we will do is we'll have another community meeting in January where we will talk about the design again. And then the funding for the construction and a little bit of design money that we need, that will go before town meeting in April. So the design won't go before town meeting, the funding will go before town meeting. So if folks are interested in chiming in on the design, that January meeting is going to be really important. So definitely want to attend that meeting.
Our consultant is currently under scope to prepare permit level drawings, but not submit the permits. So that would be approximately a 75% complete design.
They will have to get approval from, I believe, the planning board. It will trigger site plan review. So the planning board will have a say in the design. And possibly, I'm not sure if this is going to be triggered by Conservation Commission approval, it may. But we'll know that as the design advances.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any other comments from staff? I don't see any other hands raised anywhere. So would anyone like to make a motion to choose a location for our dog park?
I will make a motion, Mr. Chair. I just find my motions. Because of course, as soon as I clicked off it, I needed it. Okay. I move the board to vote to approve the Boundary Street site location for the new dog park.
Second.
Motion made by Kristen, seconded by Scott. Any other discussion? All those in favor, Kristen,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Julianne,
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Vote is unanimous in favor. Congratulations and thank you very much, Lori and Scott, for all the work that you've done on this so far. And I know a lot of other people have helped with this as well, both town staff and volunteers. We look forward to seeing further progress.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your support. This is an exciting project, and so it's great to be part of making this a reality for the town of Northborough.
Yeah,
Excellent. Thank you very much.
sure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on our agenda, we have reports. Julianne, do you have any reports tonight?
Just a couple of things. So this afternoon, our chairperson, Mitch Cohen, and John Cordera and I met with Robin Kennedy. It was a kind of get to know our new state senator and just talk about some things that have always been on our list of priorities and some new things like hybrid meetings and continuing with Zoom. And it was a very, I think, very congenial, productive meeting. And I just want to thank Mitch for getting that organized. And a couple of other thank yous. One is to the Town Common ladies for the beautiful planters on Church Street and Main Street. They winterized those. And unfortunately, because of family circumstances, I was unable to go to the tree lighting, but as always, thanks to the Community Affairs Committee. And that ends my report.
Great. Jason, do you have any reports tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, just like to echo the thanks to the Community Affairs Committee for the tree lighting and menorah lighting, somewhat initial lighting that took place this past Saturday. Fortunately, had a break in the weather, which had been rainy through most of the early part of the day, but kind of cleared up for this for the ceremony. So that was very good timing. The second thing I'd like to mention is just to remind people that the fire department is conducting their Toys for Tots collection. That will take place continuing through this, I believe, Sunday, December 11th. And you can drop off any toys between the hours of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., I believe is the time slot that's advertised. If you're looking for that information, you can find that on the town website. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jason. Kristen, do you have any reports?
Yes, thanks. So to piggyback on what Jason just told us about Toys for Tots, I happen to be in Hannaford this evening or this afternoon, and they also have a Toys for Tots box. So if you forgot to go to the fire department, like some people meant to earlier today, and happen to be in Hannaford, you can drop the toys there too. I guess they all go to the same, organization, right? Toys for Tots. So that's good news. And then I also dropped some toys and books. I drop a lot of new books because both these organizations accept books too for kids. So I dropped a lot of books and toys at Walmart on Saturday for the Stuff a Cruiser drive. And the cruiser, when I was there, was not stuffed, but it was getting full, and that was good. And Officer Chris, Chief Library, are you there? Can you help me with his last name? I can't remember his last name. Bazell. Yes, he was very friendly. He was like a young Santa. He was super happy to be there taking the toys. Very nice guy. So thanks to the police department for doing that as well.
It ended up being very successful.
Good, good. I'm glad. Yeah, and I saw there were actually 2 cruisers, so because there was a UMass cruiser there too.
So we did in conjunction with the UMass
Right.
Police Department.
Yeah, I saw that. And then those toys go to foster kids in Worcester, right?
Yes, through the Department of Children and Families.
Yeah.
They have an annual Christmas party for children in foster care or in DCF custody, or and they give them Christmas.
Right. So that's a really nice idea. So thanks. Thanks for those details, Chief.
You're
The Troop 101 will be doing tree pickup again this year. If people are interested in having their Christmas tree picked up, I know most of us either just got their Christmas tree or haven't even got it yet. If you get a Christmas tree, but just FYI, they are doing that again this year. If anyone needs the information, I'm happy to email it to them, but I'm sure it will be all over social media as well. And I did do a very informal poll about to see if people are, residents are interested in electronic voting during town meeting. And it does seem that people are interested. So I'm going to keep doing some research on that and seeing what other towns around are doing, because some of them are doing different things, which is interesting to see. That's all for me tonight. Thanks.
And Scott, do you have any reports tonight?
Yeah, just one additional item from the rec department. Just wanted to thank everyone that participated in the turkey trot. They had over 600 participants. And so the department just wanted to thank all the volunteers that made that event a success. Nothing else to report.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I was a witness to the turkey trot, not a runner, just an observer, and it's a great event always. We love participating in the observing way. The tree lighting was fantastic as always, and certainly look forward to the menorah lighting, which will be on the 25th at 5 p.m. at the same location for anyone who is available. I know it's a big holiday for a lot of people, and that's totally fine. And I want to thank I think it's the Firefighters Union 3057 for a delightful gag that they're pulling on social media with Pierce the Firefighter Elf. I'm really enjoying the mischief that Pierce is getting into. I hope he stays safe, and I will continue watching for his activities. And that ends my report and all reports. Next up on our agenda, we have the interview subcommittee recommendation for an appointment to the Temporary Traffic Safety Committee. Would someone like to either make a motion or talk about that?
Mr. Chairman, I move the board vote to recommend Jennifer Scalise for appointment to the Temporary Traffic Safety Committee as recommended by the interview subcommittee. Sorry about that.
Right.
He's a little late in his participation.
Speaking of dogs.
Yeah. And you
Did I repeat
Kristen, I
that?
heard you second that, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So motion made by Julianne, seconded by Kristen. Any discussion? Any members of the board? All those in. Oh, do you have a question, Julianne?
Say it was a really great interview, and I guess I better not comment. Sorry, because my dog wants to participate. Sorry.
Very excited about the dog park. Yes. Agenda topic is over. I'm sorry. All right. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to add before we voted? Okay. All those in favor, Julian.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Vote unanimous. In favor, congratulations, Jen, and congratulations now that we have a full board to the Temporary Traffic and Safety Committee. I think we're going to try to, if we can, gather together one meeting before the end of the calendar year to sort of start the process off, and then continue on into next year with that. And we did set a deadline of 6 months from the date of the first meeting to report back to us. Next up on our agenda, John, presentation of preliminary FY 2024 free cash plan.
Thank you. So as you know, we closed out fiscal 2022 that ended on June 30th of this year. At the close, after the close of the fiscal year, we usually have the auditors come through, and then the Department of Revenue certifies our free cash. In very basic terms, free cash is your budget surplus at the end of the year. It's revenues that come in greater than you had forecasts, and expenditures that come in below appropriations. So for fiscal 2022, we ended the fiscal year to the positive for about $2.44 million. That's a typical amount for us. Our goal in the Department of Revenue's guidance is that you want your revenues to generally be within about 2 to 3%, and your appropriations returned be about 2 to 3%. So our revenues exceeded our budget by $765,000, or 1.16%. And the expenditures that were returned were about 1.1 million, or 1.67%. So we're right on target. To be perfectly frank, if you're any closer than that, it's pure dumb luck, because you can't get any closer than that. What I'd like to do is just share my screen from the packet. So what you have here is this is right out of the packet on page 2. In accordance with our policy, and by the way, our free cash policy limits the use of how free cash can be used. It can be used as a appropriation committee's reserve fund. This is our emergency fund during the course of the fiscal year. A limited subsidy of the operating budget can be put in the into the stabilization fund. And last but not least, it can be used towards one-time capital projects. That's where the bulk of the money typically goes to. So what you have before you this evening, again, this is informational only. There's no votes or anything or approvals that need to take place. But the policy requires me to basically do an analysis of free cash and to put forward a preliminary free cash plan. And really the point of the exercise is to identify how much we can potentially spend on one-time capital projects. But if you look at the table that's on the screen at the moment, as I said, we have free cash in the amount of about 2.44 million. So every year we put $175,000 into the appropriation committee's reserve fund. Oftentimes that's used to deal with storm expenses that are unknown. We have, as part of the policy, a operational target of no more than $500,000 of one-time revenues in the operating budget. And so that would be recommended would be to roll that forward in compliance with the policy. And then, as you know, there were 2 years in a row during the pandemic, we were unable to make contributions to our stabilization fund. This is our rainy day fund. Last year, we put $200,000 in, and again, we're recommending to put $200,000 of free cash into the stabilization fund. That would allow us to maintain our financial reserves at the targeted level of between 8 and 10%. That would keep us right around, actually between 5 and 10%, but would keep us right around 8%. Bond rating agencies would like us to be, between 8 and 10%. That ensures that if something happens, like a recession or a pandemic or an emergency, that the town still has the financial capacity to make good on its debt payments. And so last but not least, as you come through, you can see that would give us about $1 million, $1,065,000 roughly, to spend on one-time capital improvement projects in the upcoming year. So as we have done from the inception of the free cash policy back in 2009, We are overly conservative, so we always leave $500,000 undesignated, so essentially remains as available for the town in the event that something happens and we need to access those funds. And one of the reasons for that is in the event that something bad happens and you don't generate much in the way of free cash, you know, you'll have at least the amount, at least the 1% amount, the 500,000 in the upcoming subsequent year, so that you have some time to maneuver. So all of these aspects of this preliminary free cash plan are subject to the whole budget process, as well as town meeting approval. So at town meeting, there will be an article for the Appropriation Committee's reserve fund. There's an article for the stabilization fund contribution, and obviously a budget article, as well as all the individual capital projects that would come forward. So it's good news. We finished the year out pretty much right on target, and it gives us a little bit to work with on pay-as-you-go capital. Now, as you know, last year we had a significant amount of free cash, and that was due to the fact that we were very conservative, as was the state, in terms of the economy. And with the pandemic, things opened up, and so being conservative, we generated a little bit more free cash. But historically, actually, let me scroll down and I'll share a chart. There we go. This is a history going back to 1990 to 2022, and you can see free cash bounces around. It's largely follows the what's happening in the economy. There was a time when we actually had negative free cash. You do not ever want to finish out your fiscal year with negative free cash. That is very, very bad. But as you look at this, you can see the average free cash for the last 10 years, I believe, is about 2.8 million. We've had a couple years where with some significantly high free cash, a couple years that are low. This number is going to bounce around. It's an unpredictable revenue source, and that's why we use it to fund one-time expenses, and we don't roll much of it forward beyond the 1% of the operating budget, because that would create a structural deficit. So again, so this is our preliminary free cash plan, and at this point in time, the appropriations financial planning committee will start meeting. They'll be reviewing the capital improvement plan and the capital budget for the articles that would go forward to town meeting. And so that will all play out. And again, all of this is subject to town meeting approval. So the good news is we finished the prior fiscal year out in a positive way. We have enough funding to deal with needs in each of those 4 or 5 main buckets. But we will have less to spend on capital this year than we did last year. So anytime budgets get tight, your free cash tends to shrink up a little bit. But again, we finished out the fiscal year right on target. Happy to answer any questions. Like I said, there's no votes or approvals that are needed tonight. Just under the policy, I'm required to put together a plan to how this would work into the upcoming budget cycle. Good news, again, just to emphasize, we have good positive free cash. We have enough of that free cash to deal with the needs in the upcoming budget cycle of those different categories. So through the chair, I'm happy to answer any questions that folks may have.
Any questions? Jason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to note that the free cash policy, John, if I'm not mistaken, was instituted somewhere around 2010, 2011.
2009, yeah.
2009, but the impetus for it predominantly came in 2007, where we only generated about $500,000 in free cash. But at that point, our typical budget practice was to subsidize the operational budget on the order of $1 million using free cash. And that was a very significant shortfall and caused a lot of angst in our budget planning process at that time. So the limit of using free cash as an operational budget subsidy. That was a very significant discipline we had to impose and wean ourselves onto over a few years there, and has, since then been very instrumental in keeping our financial stability in place, and not to build in an over-reliance in the operational budget on free cash as a source of revenue. Just wanted to make that point because this is a policy that was instituted in direct response, in part, to some adverse circumstances we experienced in the mid to late 2000s.
Exactly. Just to follow up on that, it's also our policy that we put in place, over a decade ago, is the policy that the Department of Revenue very strongly encourages towns to adopt or to follow, to get off of the use. I mean, it's perfectly legal, just not good financial practice. Basically, you create a rolling structural deficit, and to Jason's point, the year that you have a recession, or a simple perfect example would be the pandemic, all of a sudden, if you have that over reliance, you get caught. And as Warren Buffett is famous for saying, the low tide shows who's swimming naked. Basically, you can keep that up until something bad happens, and then you hit the double whammy of you lose the revenues, and you have the problem in the current year, but now you also are going to have a problem in the following subsequent year. So this was a conscious decision to adopt this policy, and and every board and committee, including the school committee, signed on. It's just good financial management.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that item? Julianne?
Yeah, so I have a question about the returned $1.1+ million. Were there any projects or appropriations that were not spent this year?
Yeah, it tends to be. I mean, keep in mind you got a $70 million budget, so it's spread all around. But the big ones, as I indicated in the memo, was our health insurance. Our health insurance returned over $400,000. We had a very good renewal, so that was helpful. And then we had the police department had significant turnover, and so as you're bringing people in at lower salaries, we had turnover in a number of departments, so that added in over 100,000. And then remember the assessment for the high school ultimately came in less, and so that was another 123,000. And then the rest of it's a smattering all over various departments. One of the things I'm very proud of with our department heads is they don't go on a spending spree at the end of the year because there's money left over. If they need it, they spend it. If they don't, we don't. There's also along the way, if we can get grant funding or other funding sources for things, that contributes to it. But as I said, if to be under between 1% and 2%, honestly, that's as close as you can get, just because of all the variables that take place. But the big contribution was our benefits did really well this year, and that was the single largest contributor to our free cash.
And were there any projects or appropriations that are still unspent?
Well, two different things. This is the operating budget, not to be confused with capital projects. When a capital project is approved, it goes into the capital fund. Those don't lapse by fiscal year, because most significant capital projects, think of a building project, spans multiple fiscal years. When projects are done, we have a regular routine process of cleaning those up. So things like equipment, vehicles, and so forth, those have 1 year. Any remaining balances get swept back and fall back to free cash. Building projects, the same thing. When those clean up, the last one we had was the Lincoln Street building project, and that $1.38 million that was left from that project, because that was a debt excluded bonded project, is actually what we used to acquire the property for the fire station project. So we routinely sweep those. So free cash is just operating, not to be confused with, like I said, capital projects, which don't lapse with the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? All right, next up on our agenda, similar topic, review of the town meeting and budget schedule.
Yeah, so every year we put out a budget manual, which is the instructions to the department heads. I make sure that all the boards and committees, financial boards and committees, including the board of selectmen, get copied on that. So in your packet is just another copy of the schedule, but essentially operational budgets are due to my office tomorrow. And from there, we'll be doing reviews, operational reviews. The appropriations committee will then get going and start meeting with departmental budget reviews. A couple key milestones is February 3rd, warrant articles for the upcoming April 2023 town meeting are due to my office. The board will see that at your February 23rd meeting. Those are just an initial draft of warrant articles. That will continue to get developed. The next big milestone would be March 27th. That's the joint financial budget hearing as required by the charter between the Board of Selectmen and the Appropriations Committee. And then April town meeting is April 24th, at which point all of the budgets and everything will head to town meeting for approval. So that's the rough schedule that will follow. And as the Appropriations Committee sets their calendar, we'll make those dates available so people know when the appropriations and financial planning will be meeting to discuss the projects that are before them.
Excellent. Of course, we have the financial trend monitoring meeting next,
Yes,
next
so
Thursday.
February 15th, the third Thursday is our annual financial trend monitoring. This is where we look.
December 13th. You were thinking.
What did I
ahead by
say?
A couple of months. I think you said February.
Fast forwarding. I'm ahead of myself here.
Yes.
Thank you. December 15th, which is next Thursday. This is where we have, school committee, appropriations, financial planning, Board of Selectmen. We will then do, Jason Little, the town accountant, is feverishly working on this now. We do the trend analysis looking back 10 years. We make assumptions about what's happening currently, and then we forecast forward 5 years. And that's the meeting at which we set the table for the upcoming budget cycle. We'll target a budget, a reasonable budget increase, forecast, at least initially, what we think the tax impact will be. And then, of course, we'll go through that process. Usually around that time, it used to be the week before. Now sometimes it's the week after. But the state will do their revenue consensus hearing. This is where the new governor administration will meet with the Department of Revenue and the legislature, and they invite in all of the economists and again, the Department of Revenue to look at what do they see coming up for the upcoming finances for the state in the upcoming fiscal year. It gives us our first sense of what state aid might look like. And again, remembering that what state aid increases is not necessarily what Northborough state aid will increase. Ours tends to be in the 1% to 2% range or less. So that revenue consensus hearing will take place. Now, keep in mind this year with Governor Healy coming in, she will have an extra month. So normally the governor is required to provide their budget at the end of January. So the incoming governor, because of the transition, will have an extra month. So we'll have even later information with regard to what state aid is doing. But anyway, I think the consensus hearing will give us some sense. As I've said, it really, I hate to say it, but it almost doesn't matter what's happening with the state revenues, because the majority of any additional revenues that the state gets is really being diverted to communities that qualify under the various categories of the Student Opportunity Act. These are essentially communities that are more needy, have more needy populations than we do. And so that's where the vast majority of the money gets funneled to. And Northborough, based on our socioeconomic demographics, generally doesn't see much, if anything, from that. So historically, our state aid goes up about 1.5% or 2%, and that's what I would anticipate. One of the things that we discussed, Julianne, you mentioned the meeting we had with our with Robin Kennedy, our senator elect. And one of the things that we talked to her about was the fact that our budgets go up about 3.5% each year. That's what we need to have in order to sustain our current level of services. And state aid has continually lagged behind that, which means as a percentage of our operating budget, state aid back in 2003 was over 13%. Now it's only 8%. And that trend is going to continue for the foreseeable future. So information is going to come a little bit later this year. One of the big things we're working on now, I don't have any information yet, is what our health insurance renewals are going to look like. We haven't gotten our loss ratios yet. Those are lagging, but that's another big piece. And then we'll wait to see, working with the superintendent. It doesn't look like we're going to see a big shift in enrollment at the Algonquin Regional High School, so things should be relatively stable this year, which is nice. We shouldn't see any big shift either way. So things will continue to develop as they do. We'll keep you informed, but the December trend monitoring next Thursday is the real big formal kickoff to the upcoming budget season. That's when we have our first glimpse of closing out the prior fiscal year, setting the tax rate for the current fiscal year, FY23, and we have some sort of a consensus hearing estimate from the state, which gives us a little bit of a peek into what we can anticipate for the Massachusetts economy moving forward for the upcoming year. The only other thing I would add is if you're watching and reading about the economy, people have made comments that it's like watching 4 or 5 different economies. The housing market is plummeting, labor market is booming, consumer confidence seems to be hanging on. So it's sort of all over the place. I'm very interested to see what the economists that come in to speak to the consensus revenue hearing committee has to say about what they anticipate for the upcoming fiscal year. But we'll keep you posted as that information becomes available.
Thank you, John. Any questions? Julianne?
So there doesn't seem to be a schedule for the financial planning committee yet.
Yes, so we're compiling all of the capital requests. I just got the school department's capital requests, and so that's being put together now, and they'll be begin meeting shortly.
And will all of these meetings be on Zoom? Will they be remote?
They won't be on Zoom, but they will be broadcast by local access and streamed on YouTube.
So there will be public participation.
There'll be points where specifically public participation will be requested. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions for John? Okay, next up on our agenda is setting our own meeting schedule for the next few months. Would someone like to make a motion on that?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to set the meeting schedule for January through April as follows: January 9, January 23, February 13, February 27, March 13, March 27, April 10, and finally April 24th, which coincides with town meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made by Jason, seconded by Scott. Sounds like a delightful schedule. Does anybody have any questions? All those in favor: Scott.
Hi.
Preston.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Julianne.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Vote is unanimous in favor. Congratulations, we've got a schedule. Consider closing town offices, DPW and Senior Center on the 23rd of December. John, do you want to give us a quick brief on that?
Sure. This is just it's a tradition. Doesn't mean you have to follow it, but traditionally the Board of Selectmen, Friday, this is a Friday, it's a 5-hour day, so it's roughly a half day to begin with. But traditionally leading up to the holiday, the Board of Selectmen has released and closed the town hall for that half day. And so that's before you tonight for your consideration.
Would someone like to make a motion to that effect?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the opportunity to do a much better version of this than I did for Thanksgiving.
I thought about you with this particular motion when assigning them.
Thank you very much. So I move the board vote to close the town offices, DPW and senior center on Friday, December 23rd, 2022 to provide staff additional time with their families this holiday season. Staff who are normally scheduled to work this day shall receive their regular rate of pay. In the event that essential staff are called into work, they shall receive their regular rate of pay. And staff not scheduled to work this day, including staff on scheduled vacation leave or sick leave, shall have such scheduled leave calculated on a full day basis.
Second.
Motion made by Scott, seconded by Jason. Any discussion? All those in favor, Scott,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Julianne,
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Vote is unanimous in favor. Thank you very much for recommending that to us as always, John.
On behalf of the staff, I just would like to thank the board. That is a very kind gesture, and I know this is something that is greatly appreciated. Usually when I send out the notice, my inbox gets flooded. Tell the board we said thank you. So I'll in advance tell you everybody's going to say thank you.
Wonderful. I hope everyone has a fantastic holiday break and enjoying that extra little bit of time. Next on our agenda is we've got 3 cemetery deeds to execute. Would someone like to make a motion on that?
Mr. Chair, I move the board to vote to execute cemetery deeds 1159, 1160, and 1161.
Second.
Excuse me,
Motion made
sorry.
by Kristen. I'll give the second to Jason. Any discussion? All those in favor, Kristen,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Julianne,
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Vote is unanimous in favor. Those are approved. Does anyone have anything else to come before the board?
Nothing this evening.
Okay. Very briefly, I meant to mention this during reports. The Mass Municipal Association Conference is coming up the 20th and 21st of January. It's a conference I used to attend regularly, and I look forward to attending again. And I would encourage all board members, if you are available, I'm sure there will be interesting topics. I spoke with John about that. We do have a budget line item that can cover that. So I would say if you're interested in attending, contact, probably, I assume Di could make the arrangements, or contact you, John.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to know that you're going, so you can register yourselves. Remember to get a hotel room, and then just let us know so we can make sure that we will process the reimbursements.
Excellent. Sounds excellent. And there being no other business, our last item, as always, is public comment. Are there any members of the audience that would like to speak to anything at all? Going once, going twice, gone. There being no further business, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Scott, seconded by Julianne to adjourn. Let's see. All those in favor, Jason,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Julianne.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Vote is unanimous. We are adjourned at 8:48 p.m. Thank you very, very much, everybody.